we have Billy Pilgrim calling us from Texas. Billy Pilgrim, you are live on Truth Wanted. How can we help you?
Hey, Kayse. Hey, Dan. How are you guys?
Doing great, Billy. How about you?
Very well, and happy National Gecko Appreciation Day.
Wow. Is it that time? That time already? I didn't get a gift for my local gecko. I need to think about that.
No.
Wow.
That is
Anyway.
totally made up. It's just that that's totally made up. There's just so many of those silly things we have now. You bought it. You bought it, right?
I bought a hook line. Billy,
Me too.
you absolutely convinced me that was a thing. I was like, man, I was so busy buying a card for my mother for Mother's Day, I didn't think about Gecko Day. I mean, gosh, how I consider it, but you know. But
had you known, you could have glued a dead gecko to the card.
See, now you're a faucet of misinformation, Billy. So I don't know. We might have to censor you, I think, is what's happening. I'm just kidding. So what do you want to talk to us about today?
Well, I first wanted to say Kayse Melone that is a great name for an Australian outlaw folk hero.
Kayse Melone.
Kayse Melone. I like it.
Thank you.
I can see her on horseback robbing banks.
Truly a life goal. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll get right to it. Boy, Bob just stole your last call, which was fantastic. Just stole many of my talking points about how when people want to believe things, it's pretty much fucking impossible to convince them otherwise.
Yeah. I think so. But yeah, go ahead. I won't interrupt you here, Billy.
Well, I'll be brief. Roswell, the Roswell quote incident, is the most thoroughly investigated and thoroughly explained and debunked of all the UFO stuff. We've got the crystal skull, the skull of doom, which is thoroughly debunked and thoroughly explained. But yet, the more you provide actual information, the more you become part of the conspiracy to cover it up.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think it's an investment people make into these ideas, right? Like, it's harder to say, I don't want to do anything with this anymore. There's a lot of people who have a very unhealthy relationship with their church because they maybe want to leave, but they don't have a good way out because maybe all their friends and family go there, or maybe they don't know really what an atheist is, or don't really have a concept of what it means to live a good life outside of a Christian one. And it can really trap us, some of these ideas. I think part of it is just the pathways. You get worried or scared that all this time you've invested in this idea makes you look like a fool too,
Well, community is certainly a huge part of the theistic community, and I'm the atheist jerk asshole who rejoined his church of origin because I thought they needed an atheist up there. And I'm the guy who points out that the part of Mark that talks about picking up serpents and drinking poison, that was added much later. I'm the guy who points out that we don't know who wrote the Gospels. And most of my, not all, but most of my objections and comments provoke thought. They provoke questions.
How did that work for you, Billy? Did you get any converts that way?
No, that's not my, no. I'm not up there to do that. This is my church of origin, and this is a very liberal, progressive church.
Okay.
We're LGBTQ positive. We're not scriptural inerrantists. Is that a word? No, this is a disciples of Christ. We're very moderate, vanilla, public service kind of church. And I think, what is a better place for a local atheist to be but in a progressive church? And I've caught a lot of shit from that from other atheists.
Yeah, I don't know. You may get shit from me, Billy. Not to say that you don't have a right to go or do as you please, but like, I don't know if I want to support churches as an institution, period. Right? Even the most liberal ones. I just don't think that they need to be around. Not just because I don't think they're for me, but even the most progressive church spaces can still harbor assholes. I mean, they really can, right? And I don't know your church. I don't know your community. I don't know your people. But I would rather give place people or encourage people to conform in more secular ways than a church way, to be honest. I just don't think, I don't think you need it, but churches, they have all kinds of problems, and I don't know if it's an institution we really need. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. What do you think, Kayse?
Yeah, that's tricky. Going back to what we were kind of talking about earlier about how community is such a big part of why people stay in religious environments. Like, I totally understand that draw, especially for people who have children in their families, right? Like, I totally understand that draw. But I kind of do agree with Dan just on the premise of giving power to the institution, right? The idea of continually perpetuating this system that I think more than even just the idea of it being inherently evil, if evil is such a thing or not, is at the very least at the end of its life cycle of being healthy and viable for the human species on our path of evolution, right? So I do push back against the institution as a whole. I do try to always clarify about not pushing, villainizing everyday Christians, etc. Because one thing that I try to remind myself of is how, as far as truth seeking goes, kind of going to what you were started at the beginning of your call, Billy, was the idea of truth seeking in general. I have to remind myself that in a lot of ways, it is kind of a privilege. It is, there is research that shows that the largest demographic of like atheists in the United States, at least, are white men. And there's a lot to that. But I think in large part, number one, it's almost kind of validating to like look at it this way. But I think in large part, when you're not as worried about putting the food on the table, you have time and mental bandwidth to be a truth seeker, to question the powers that be and the belief systems we're taught, etc. And so in a way, like I do, like I commend you for your work and like going out there and asking the hard questions and encouraging free thought. I totally, commend that. But I do remind myself, like, it is a privilege to be an atheist and to, as Dan was saying earlier, enjoy the liberation that comes along with that. And encouraging that amongst the species, I love that. Absolutely. Vibes. Immaculate. It's just something that I try to be mindful of when I'm looking at people. Maybe they have 4 kids, they've working 2 jobs. Like, I understand why the information they're getting, that their algorithms are feeding them more and more conspiracy related content. Yeah. I understand why maybe they're not taking the time to check sources and fact check, etc. And it's hard to kind of square that. I don't think it's an easy thing to approach, but I do commend you for bringing it up. It is something that I try to remember.
What are your thoughts on that, Billy?
Well, I appreciate Kayse's opinion, but she didn't address the fact that an atheist in a progressive church is a good positioning. I'm tearing it down from within.
I get that. That. And you know what? I relate to that as a woman because as women have moved through a man's world, we have more experience, I think, aligning with power that maybe we don't want to align with in order to do our best. So I totally relate. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I like the idea of giving power to those spaces anymore, to be completely honest. It's something that I think a lot of us are working through, though, so I understand. I do recognize what you're saying. Like, I understand the concept. I just, I'm kind of like no contact with the Christian church, I guess you could say, personally speaking. So
yeah, I'm actually, I think you've made a great point, Billy, because I'm of 2 minds of this now. Because on the one hand, we just talked about how it's hard to leave because you don't have a bridge, and you could be a bridge for somebody. Right? You absolutely could. That's very viable. On the other hand, I'm also listening to Kayse's point about how my atheism is a privilege, and I 100% agree with her on that, because I went to college, and I got an education, and I went to got to study and have a background in all kinds of learning, and got to have that time to develop and look at myself in a way, because I wasn't working all the time, and I wasn't trying to provide for my own family. I wasn't trying to just make men's meat. and do all of these things. So I think there's it's a hard balance, isn't it? How do you do that? I don't know. On the one hand, I commend you for sticking to your principles and wanting to tear down stuff from within. I get that. But I wonder, as a representation of our community, is it going to look the best that we're in other people's spaces doing that? I mean, like if a Christian was at the atheist community of Austin every week because they wanted to convert me to Christianity, how would I feel about that? I don't know. I mean, I guess I would appreciate the conversation, but at some point I kind of know what they're about and it kind of makes me tune out a little bit, right? So like, I wonder if people would feel the same way if I was doing that at a church environment, right? I don't know. What do you think, Billy?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I'm not in their face at all. This is my church of origin. And 3 reasons I went back there a couple of years ago. I told them, all of them up front, I'm an atheist, I'm a secularist, I'm a skeptic. Tell me not to come. If you don't want me to come, I won't come. This is my church of origin. That's number one. It's community. I'm in a town of 10,000 people. I've known some of these families all my life.
Okay.
Number two, our church is wonderful at doing community good. We distribute food, clothing. We painted houses last weekend. Number three, I was a religion major. So I know more about the Bible and other religion shit than practically anybody up there. So it's an opportunity to both learn and to teach. So I can't find a better place for myself. I've looked at other secular outlets, didn't work for me. This is the best place for me.
Yeah, I hear you saying, it's a place for you to learn, but what are you learning? What are you getting from that?
Oh, plenty. I haven't got to talk serious religion with people in years and years. I'm learning. My pastor is a bright divinity student. He knows a lot about religion.
Okay, so you're getting an academic understanding of religion, and that's something that you're getting from that.
I'm getting an academically enhanced understanding. We talk about, how often do you sit down and talk to people excuse me, about scripture who believe it?
Well, I mean, almost every week sometimes, but I'm kind of the exception. I don't know if I'm the best person to ask about that, Billy.
I totally see where you're coming from, Billy, and I again, I commend you for sticking to what you think is important to you. And at the end of the day, you are really going to be the person who knows best where your work, your time, your energy is going to matter, is going to move the needle in any direction towards progress, secularism, etc. So in that sense, hats off to you. I think that, and it also makes me again think about what some of the conversations we've been having tonight. What are our intentions as far as moving that needle and working towards a more reasonable, tolerant society, etc., if we almost reverse villainize and do the us versus them? That's something that I honestly am trying to navigate myself. I'm not saying I have an answer, but I'm trying. I feel you as far as I don't want to keep myself secluded if I grew up being told to never have connections with an atheist. I don't want to continue that cycle. So I'm still navigating that too. So I guess that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I want to more address your rebuttal fully, because I think, Billy, you made another great point. This is a community that you're very familiar with, and they're very familiar with you. You're not invading a space, right? This sort of thing. So I think that additional context does make the argument a bit different, right? Because when a salesman comes to your door, they want something from you. You don't want anything to do with them. That's why it's annoying, right? So it's it sounds like you're cultivating relationships where there's an even trade there, right? You're getting something from the people there, and they're getting something from you, and that's more important to me than just, hey, I'm an atheist evangelist. I'm coming here and I'm tearing it all down, and this is what I'm stopping. And, you can't stop me with that. Again, more, you do what you want with your life, but I think that makes more sense, knowing that, hey, this is people that and you're free to have these conversations with them. I would much rather people be doing that than us becoming the next door-to-door atheists, right? Going to churches and being like, hey, have you heard about this whole not believing in Jesus thing, right? Like, so, there's something to that there, Billy.
Well, thank you for your time. The next time I call, I want to talk about the myth that the Smithsonian Institute is dumping giant bones into the ocean.
I love that. That's an awesome one. I would love to talk to you about that, Billy. We can definitely do that next time you call. But until then, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.